Gloria, the third and last child of her family, was born into an average Nigerian home. She was raised by parents who believed in the power of education, especially her father, Mr. Ezekiel, a retired civil servant who had worked his entire life to ensure his children got the best education possible. Despite the limited income, he made sure all his children went to private schools. His mantra was always the same: education is the one thing I can give you that no one can ever take from you. Gloria heard those words so often that it shaped her entire mindset about life. Her eldest brother, James, had traveled to the US for his master's degree after winning a partial scholarship. The second, Tola, was working in Lagos as a customer service rep. Gloria was their last card. Brilliant, quiet, determined. She was the type of girl who would read with a flashlight during NEPA blackouts. The type who always prayed before exams. The type who always cleaned up after others. After her NYSC in Calabar, Gloria came back home with a renewed fire. While serving, she had saved every kobo she could, saying no to things other corps members spent on. No fancy wigs, no weekends away, no impulsive phone upgrades. She had a goal to further her education abroad. One late afternoon, while her mother was slicing okra in the kitchen and her father was watching the 4 p.m. news, Gloria dropped the envelope on the table. "Daddy, Mama, I got in," her mother peeked from the kitchen. "Got into what?" Gloria smiled and opened the letter. "I got admission to study international education and development in the UK." Her father picked up the letter with his glasses already sliding halfway down his nose. He read it silently, his brows lifting. "University of Success?" He muttered. "That's not Beans. Is that the one in London?" Mama said. "No," Gloria said gently, walking closer. "It's Brighton. It's a very good school, Mama. One of the best in education studies." Mama blinked. "So, you want to leave Nigeria?" Gloria nodded, trying to hide her excitement. Her mother hummed. She raised her hands and walked slowly to the table, staring at the letter like it carried a threat. "Why not do your master's here in Nigeria? UI is just here now. Or even Covenant. All these things abroad require money. Gloria, we don't have the kind of money we used to have. Your father is retired. I am retired also. You saw how long it took James to even finish his degree in America. And even now, he's still there struggling. Cleaning job today, Uber tomorrow. He hasn't even sent a dime home yet." "I know, Mama. I know it's not easy, but I'm not asking you to carry everything. I have saved some money. I have paid the application fee myself. I'll work part-time when I get there to support myself." "You work and study?" Her mother gave her a long, pained look. "You think it's Nigeria? Abroad is different to Gloria. There is no neighbor to borrow paper from. No one to run to for help. Nobody owes you anything there." Her father had stayed quiet through most of the exchange. He folded the letter back into the envelope and held it for a while. Then he looked at Gloria. "You're sure this is what you want?" Gloria nodded. "I've thought about it for a long time. I want to study more. I want to help communities, children, education systems. This course, this school, this opportunity. It fits me, Daddy." Her father leaned back, silent again. Then he exhaled. "Then you will go." Her mother turned sharply. "Ezekiel, if it's a dream," he said slowly, "then we will support it. I will sell that land in Ife we've been holding on to, and if we have to take a loan, we will. She's not chasing fashion or soft life. She has a goal. Let her go." From that moment, Gloria entered what felt like a tunnel of activity. She began gathering documents, birth certificates, transcripts, NYSC certificates, police clearance, medicals. She would get up early to call the school's international office when the UK line would be active. She learned to navigate embassy appointments and biometric captures. The visa process took longer than expected. At a point, She cried when they asked for proof of financial capability. She prayed over every document before submitting. When the visa finally arrived in a brown envelope, she danced in the living room. The week before her flight, neighbors came to greet the family. Gloria the scholar, they called her. Our own Jackpot queen. She smiled, but inside, she felt fear. What if she failed? What if she disappointed everyone? Her mother packed her boxes with dried fish, ogbono, zobo leaves, and tear-stained handkerchiefs. Her father gave her an old wristwatch. This one doesn't tell Lagos time. It tells purpose time. Stay on track. The morning she left for the airport, there were no grand speeches, just her mother pressing her hands into hers. Remember who you are. You are loved, and no matter what happens, finish what you started. Gloria nodded with tears in her eyes. I'll make you proud, Mama. The wheels of the plane screeched against the wet runway at Heathrow Airport, and Gloria's stomach turned slightly. It wasn't motion sickness. It was a strange mix of nerves and reality kicking in. She had made it. Her dream had crossed continents, but almost immediately, everything felt unfamiliar. At immigration, she stopped in line holding her document tightly, rehearsing answers under her breath. The immigration officer, a stern-looking woman with tight blonde curls, glanced at her passport, visa, and caste letter. What course are you here for? International Education and Development, Gloria answered clearly. How long is your program? 14 months, ma'am. She was eventually waved through. No smiles, no welcome to the UK, just cold air, blinking lights, and people rushing with their luggage as though everyone was late for something. She managed to find a bus terminal, got on a coach heading to Brighton, and spent the next few hours watching the quiet grey landscape blow past. No hawkers, no loud phone calls, just stillness. When she finally arrived at her student's housing around 8 p.m., her body was screaming for rest. Her room was small, barely enough space for her box, a bed, a table, and a wardrobe. But it was hers. She looked around, sank onto the bed, and cried. The kind of cry that released everything. Relief, fatigue, fear. The next few days felt like a crash course in survival. She got lost twice trying to find her school building. She had to learn how to use the self-checkout machine at the store. Her first time, she panicked when it started beeping because she forgot to scan a juice bottle. She was too embarrassed to return to that shop for a week. She missed the food from home deeply. She tried buying ingredients to cook a foriro one weekend, only to realize that the spinach didn't taste anything like the ones back in Nigeria. She downloaded bus apps, meal planner apps, and even installed Duolingo to try and understand British slang. The lectures themselves were intense. The lecturer spoke fast, and the assignment came in quickly. Everyone seemed to have read everything already. She often felt behind. There were days she would reread a journal article 3 times and still not understand it. And then, there was the cold. The UK weather felt like punishment. The wind was icy, the mornings gloomy, and even indoors, her fingers stayed cold. She began job hunting almost immediately. She signed up on job portals, visited Nigerian restaurants, and checked student notice boards. After a few weeks, she finally landed a part-time job washing dishes at a small Nigerian restaurant run by an Igbo couple. They were kind but strict. She earned just enough to buy groceries, pay phone bills, and save coins towards transport. Still, it wasn't enough to cover tuition. It was on a rainy Sunday afternoon, after a shift at the restaurant, that Gloria's life took another turn. She was standing under a shop canopy, trying to stay dry, when someone tapped her shoulder. A cheerful, plump woman in a pink trench coat and headscarf smiled at her. "Hello dear, you look Nigerian, are you?" Gloria nodded, unsure. "I'm Sister Becky. Our church is just down that road. We are small, but we are mostly Africans. You should join us." You look like someone who needs some jollof rice and Jesus." That made Gloria laugh, her first real laugh in days. The following Sunday, she decided to try it out. The church was set in a rented school hall with plastic chairs, 2 giant speakers, and one passionate choir of about 8 members. It wasn't fancy, but the music, it moved her. They sang with a kind of intensity she hadn't felt since leaving Nigeria. The pastor preached about holding on when the bridge you are walking on seems invisible. She felt like he was talking to her directly. From that day, Gloria became a regular. She joined the sanctuary team and volunteered to help clean before and after service. It wasn't glamorous, but it made her feel useful, connected. She even attended midweek Bible study sometimes. She liked that no one asked too many personal questions. They just welcomed her. While she tried to settle into her new routine, school, church, and work, trouble was brewing quietly. Tuition for the second semester was due, and she didn't have the money. She had paid her first semester tuition from the combination of her father's land sale and her savings, but there was nothing left. Her job barely paid her minimum wage, and most of it went to bills and transport. She tried applying for scholarships within the school, but she was told they were already closed for international students that year. She called her father one night, trying not to sound desperate. "Daddy, I'm short by a few £1,000. School says I must pay before they release my exam pass." Her father went quiet. Then he said softly, "I'll see what I can do. There's one retired cooperative I might be able to borrow from. Don't worry." Gloria knew he was worried. She could hear it in his voice. Then she called James in the US. Her brother had promised to support her. He'd been saving up little by little from his Uber driving and some photographic gigs. He told her, "Give me 2 weeks. I will send you something." Gloria felt a flicker of hope. But a week later, he called back, his voice broken. "Gloria, my car broke down. Without it, I can't walk. I had to use everything I saved to fix it." She sat on the edge of her bed that night, unable to breathe. The deadline was approaching. Without payment, she wouldn't be able to sit for exams. That meant deferral. That meant extra rent. That meant failure. She reached out to friends. Some encouraged her, but no one could help her financially. "You know how abroad is," one girl replied. "We are all managing." Gloria stopped eating properly. She started skipping meals, stretching leftover jollof rice for 3 days. Her roommates noticed she was quieter. At night, she would kneel by her bed and whisper prayers. She didn't even have the strength to shout. She just whispered, "Lord, I don't have any plan B. I don't even have a backup dream. Help me." The weather in Brighton had turned colder than usual. The wind was harsher and the sky seemed permanently grey. Gloria wrapped her scarf tighter as she stepped out of the house one Saturday morning for home cell fellowship. It was a small gathering, just 5 of them meeting every other weekend in Sister Becky's flat. That day, she had almost decided not to go. Her heart was heavy. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. Even the rice she brought home from the restaurant the night before had gone untouched. But she forced herself up. "If I can't talk to anyone, at least I can talk to God with people," she thought. The meeting began like usual, a short time of praise, then Bible sharing. They read from Psalm 121, "I will lift up my eyes to the hills." It made Gloria's chest tightened. Then came the prayer request time. Sister Becky, cheerful as always, smiled and said, "Let's lift one another up in prayer. If there's anything you want us to agree on today, please share with us. Believe me, where 2 or 3 are gathered, God is there. Nothing is too big or too small for God." Gloria hesitated. Her hands were cold. Her eyes were tired. But something told her, "Say it." So she did. She raised her hand gently. "I need you to join me in prayer for my school fees," she said, her voice low. "I haven't been able to complete my tuition for the next phase, and exams are close. I've tried everything. My dad's tried. My brother too. Even the job I'm doing, it's not enough. I have prayed. I just need God to show up. There was a brief pause. Then the others began to nod. Some whispered, Some said, Amen. Then they began to pray passionately, calling on heaven for provision. Gloria closed her eyes, hoping that heaven was hearing them. She felt slightly lighter after the meeting. Not joyful, but a bit more hopeful. The next morning at church, Gloria arrived early to help with cleaning as usual, but the atmosphere felt odd. As she wiped the plastic chairs, she noticed a few people looking at her longer than usual. One lady she used to chat with briefly every Sunday gave her a weak smile, then turned away quickly. A brother in the usher unit said, God will do it, Sister Gloria. As she passed by, she wasn't sure what he meant. After service, a woman in her 40s she barely knew walked up to her and said, Stay strong, my dear. Help is coming. Just trust God. She patted Gloria's shoulder sympathetically and walked off. By the third person, Gloria's heart began to pound. Something was off. Then, on her way out, she overheard a girl behind her whispering to someone else. Now, wow. She's even begging for money in fellowship now. You know her brother is also struggling in the US. It be like her family no get at all low. And it be like say, then get course. How can you be in the US and you are still struggling? For what? Gloria froze. She didn't turn. She didn't even blink. She just stood still. Her ears ringing. Curse? Begging? Is that what they thought she did? Her mind raced back to the fellowship. There were only 5 people there. She didn't name names. She didn't ask for a loan. She didn't complain. She simply asked fellow believers to pray with her. So, how did her prayer request become public gossip? That night, Gloria lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her heart crushed. She felt embarrassed, exposed, and betrayed. Over the next few days, the rumor spread. She would walk into church and feel the silence. People would look at her with soft pity. Some looked away entirely. Others avoided her. A sister who once invited her for a midweek hangout now walked past her like she didn't exist. Even during the next Sunday service, the pastor made a vague comment about people who want to go abroad by all means when they know their families can't handle it. Gloria sat in the back, her heart thumping. Was he referring to her? Or was her mind playing tricks on her? One thing became clear. Her prayer request had been weaponized. By midweek, Gloria stopped attending fellowship. She didn't respond to Sister Becky's WhatsApp messages. She stopped going to midweek services. She even dropped out of the sanctuary group chat quietly. She didn't have the strength to confront anyone, but in her heart, she mourned. She mourned the loss of trust, the stench of betrayal, and the foolishness she felt for believing she was in a safe space. She had come to God's house to pray, not to be a topic of gist. As the exam deadline neared, Gloria sank deeper. Her tuition remained unpaid. Her work shifts were inconsistent. She barely had enough money for transport. She ate once a day, mostly bread and water. She cried every night. Her Bible sat untouched on her desk. Worship songs only made her cry harder. She felt abandoned. Lord, I know I asked for help, but I didn't ask for shame. Why did you let them mock me? Why did you stay silent? She whispered into her pillow one night, her voice barely audible. The deadline was just 4 days away. If she didn't pay, she would be locked out of her portal. No exam, no certificate, no future. Her father had stopped calling, probably ashamed he couldn't help more. James had gone quiet too. Everyone was quiet. Even heaven, it seemed. On a cold Wednesday morning, Gloria dragged herself out of bed for her shift. Her phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. Too early for notifications. She checked. It was a credit alert. Her mouth fell open. It was from James. Her phone rang. She picked it instantly. Gloria, James shouted. It was a miracle. I got a photography gig out of nowhere. A wedding shoot for a Ghanaian couple. The pay was crazy. They paid me in advance, more than I expected. I just sent it all to you. Pay that tuition now." Tears spilled from her eyes like a broken tap. She didn't even know when she fell to the floor screaming, "Thank you, Jesus! Thank you, Jesus!" She knelt in the middle of her tiny room in socks and a bonnet, crying, laughing, and speaking in tongues. She hadn't prayed like that in weeks. God had come through, right at the edge. Gloria didn't wait. Her hands trembled as she logged into her school portal and clicked the Make a Payment tab. She just followed the instruction and cleared the balance. When the payment confirmation appeared on the screen, she took a screenshot and stared at it for almost a minute. She had done it. She was eligible for exams. No deferment, no setback, just grace. The moment felt like a dream. She knelt again, this time not in desperation, but in awe. "Lord," she whispered, "I was at my end. You waited to the very last second, but you came. You showed up." After that, she sat still for a long time, letting the reality settle in. Her face was soaked with tears, but for once, they weren't tears of pain. They were full of relief, of joy, of something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The exam period arrived in full force. Students moved around with books, energy drinks, and panic in their eyes. Gloria kept her head down, attending revision classes and spending nights in the library. She was determined not to waste the second chance God had given her. Every time she felt tired or anxious, she would remember the moment that alert came in. That single message was a reminder that she wasn't forgotten. She wrote every paper with focus and calm. She no longer tried to keep up appearances. She didn't wear makeup or bother straightening her hair. She was there to finish strong, and she did. When the final paper ended, Gloria stepped out of the exam hall and just stood there. A gentle breeze blew across her face. She looked up at the sky. "I made it," she said under her breath. "God, we made it." As the exam season passed and things calmed down, Gloria found herself thinking more clearly. She still hadn't returned to her church. Every time Sunday came around, she stayed in bed longer, or sometimes tuned into a random Nigerian service on YouTube. She had no hate in her heart, but something inside her refused to go back to the same environment where she had been so deeply hurt. The betrayal still sat in a corner of her mind. Every time she thought of the whispering, the looks of pity, the pastor's vague comments, it stung. And what pained her the most was that it had started from something so pure. She didn't beg anyone for money. She didn't complain or whine. All she did was ask for prayer. That's all. And that request had become a reason for gossip, a reason for shame. One Sunday, she walked to the park near her street, wearing joggers and a hoodie. She sat on a bench, plugged in her earphones, and listened to a worship song. As the lyrics filled her ears, "Even when I don't see it, you are walking," she exhaled deeply. She knew she had forgiven the people, but she also knew she could no longer worship with them. She wanted a space where her vulnerability wasn't going to be someone else's dinner table conversation, where her trust wouldn't be twisted into entertainment. A few weeks later, she found another church. It was farther from her area, but something about it felt different. She attended their online services first, quietly. The pastor spoke with simplicity, but with depth. The messages weren't flashy or quoted in unnecessary theatrics. They were real, raw, and healing. On Sunday, she finally decided to attend physically. She wore a simple navy blue dress and let her natural hair out. She didn't know anyone there. She didn't greet anyone after service. She just sat, worshipped, listened, and left quietly. And for once, she felt safe. She began attending regularly, but this time, she kept her circle small. No oversharing, no rushing to join 10 departments. She gave herself time to rebuild. It wasn't that she had become cold. It's just that she had learned. Sometimes, church hurt doesn't come from wolves, but from sheep who don't know how to keep their mouths shut. A few days later, James called her again. "Glory, baby," he shouted excitedly. "Guess what? What happened this time?" "I got a contract job with a documentary team. It's 3 months and they are paying in full, like real money this time. I can finally breathe." Gloria smiled. "I'm happy for you, James. Thank you again. You helped me when no one else could." James chuckled. "You deserve that help. You didn't even beg me or pressure me, and God just used me. Honestly, I had already spent the money in my head when that wedding job came in. I didn't expect it, but somehow, God made your timing perfect." He paused and added, "You are going to be alright, sis. You are stronger than you think." One rainy afternoon, Gloria sat by her window journaling. She wrote down everything that had happened, from her admission to the betrayal to the breakthrough. She thought about how easy it was to open up to fellow believers, expecting understanding, but instead receiving gossip. She wasn't bitter, but she was wiser now. She wrote, "I've learned that not every spiritual space is a safe space. Some people pray with you on Sunday and talk about you on Monday. It's not God's fault, it's man's weakness. But I've also learned that God doesn't need a crowd to answer you. One whisper to heaven is enough." To whoever reads this, if someone shares a burden with you, don't turn it into gist. Don't wear their vulnerability like a badge you can flash around for attention. Let people trust again. Let the church be a hospital, not a courtroom. She closed her journal slowly. There was a knock at the door. A neighbor had brought jollof rice from a party. Gloria smiled, thanked her, and returned to her seat. This time, she didn't feel like the girl who had begged God with swollen eyes. She didn't feel like the girl pitied and whispered about. She felt whole. Weeks passed, the cold began to fade and gave way to brighter, softer mornings. Spring was settling in, and with it came something unexpected: peace. Gloria had received her exam result, all passes, not just average scores, but grades that surprised even her. She read the email twice, heart pounding, just to be sure. Then she smiled and leaned back on her chair, whispering, "God, you did it." She took her phone and sent 2 messages, one to her father and one to James. "I passed." Her father called immediately, his voice trembling. "I knew it. I told your mother. I said it. That girl is made for greatness. I'm so proud of you, my baby girl." James sent a voice note, half laughing and half yelling. "I told you. You're not just my sister. You're a warrior." But the congratulations she truly longed for never came. Nobody from her former church reached out. Not Sister Becky, not the pastor, not even the cell group that had once held her hands and prayed over her tuition. They all moved on like she never existed. On Sunday, out of sheer curiosity, Gloria walked past the old church. She didn't enter. She just stood across the streets and watched them sing, laugh, and pour out of the hall like nothing had happened. She saw the girl who had whispered behind her. She saw the usher who once said, "God will do it." She even saw the cell minister who had likely started the ripple. Her chest tightened, but not with pain, just with awareness. That place had been part of her journey, and now it was behind her. She walked away without bitterness, no tears, just a quiet nod to herself. Not every place that looks spiritual will carry you in your weakest moments. Months later, outside of work, Gloria volunteered quietly at a faith-based student fellowship that met in small groups for Bible study. She never spoke much about her past, but one evening, during a post-Bible study hangout, someone brought up the difficulty of finding genuine Christian community abroad. A girl across the table sighed. "Sometimes it feels like the church here is just cold. You don't know who you can trust." Gloria looked up from her tea and said gently, "Yeah, I know exactly how that feels." She cleared her throat and said, "Sometimes you walk into places that feel like home at first, but they won't handle your vulnerability well. Not everyone who prays with you is mature enough to carry your burdens. But that doesn't mean God isn't real, or that church isn't worth it. It just means you need to heal and find your safe space again. The girl nodded. Some others did too. It was the first time Gloria ever spoke openly about what happened. One quiet evening, Gloria drafted a message on her phone. It was a letter she never sent, but it helped her heal totally. Dear Fellowship family, you may never know how much it hurt to be gossiped about by people I trusted. I never asked anyone for money. I asked for prayer, like we were taught to do. What I got in return wasn't compassion. It was whispers, pity stares, and mockery that pushed me away from a church I once called home. I've forgiven you all, truly, not because I'm better than you, but because I need my heart to be clean if I want God to keep using me. If this letter ever reaches you, let it remind you, when someone opens up to you in faith, they are handing you something fragile. Please, don't drop it. She never pressed send. She deleted it, but writing it had done the job. It released her completely. Today, Gloria is not just a master's graduate. She is a woman who understands that healing isn't always instant, but it is possible. She occasionally shares her story with new believers or hurting Christians who have been church wounded. She doesn't name names. She doesn't bash churches. She simply says, the church is a place for the broken. Don't be the reason someone stops believing in prayer, community, or God. She still serves, but wisely. And she prays, but she also listens to God and to herself. She now understands something deeply. Not every betrayal is meant to break you. Some come to build you into someone who can carry others through storms they themselves once barely survived. Here is the lesson of this story. Asking for prayer isn't a weakness. It's a bold step of faith. No believer should be shamed for opening up. Spiritual maturity is not just in praying loudly. It's in keeping secrets, honoring trust, and showing empathy. Gossip dressed in prayer concern is still gossip. Don't spiritualize someone's private pain. And not everyone leaves the church because they hate God. Some left because of how God's people treated them. If you've ever been like Gloria, wounded, humiliated, or whispered about, God still sees you and is not done with your story. I hope you enjoyed the story and I hope you were blessed. If you love the story, you will love the next one. Click to watch it now. Goodbye.